Hello and welcome to the Woke is Broke podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Stanko, and we will not be starting off today's episode with any jokes or lighthearted humor or anything like that, because top story today, the top story this week, hell, maybe even the year, it's a little bit too serious to poke fun at. We're talking nuclear serious. We're talking about Iran being weeks, maybe even days away from having a nuclear weapon. This comes by way of the New York Times. They reported earlier, experts studying new data contained in reports last week by the International Atomic Energy Agency, which is the United Nations Atomic Inspection Group, say that by enriching nuclear fuel in recent months to near bomb-grade levels, Tehran has gained the capability to produce the fuel needed for a single nuclear warhead within a month or so. Honest to God. I mean, I really haven't seen this covered virtually anywhere. Not on mainstream media, not on independent news outlets, not to any significantly great degree. And I mean, a part of me is shocked by that, and another part of me understands it a little bit, right? Because we have the border crisis, right? We have Biden's tyrannical vaccine mandate, right? We have the $3.5 trillion Democrat spending spree being voted on this week, right? We have the situation in Afghanistan. We have a lot on our plate. Don't get me wrong. We have a lot of other fires that we're drawing our attention to, hands down. But this should be able to cut through that noise. Right? This math equation should be able to cut through the crap and get everybody's attention. Nuclear Iran plus United States with open borders equals... Anyone? I'll leave you to figure that one out. This is scary shit, hands down. I mean, let's rewind the clock back about a decade, right? Obama in the White House, and in his infinite wisdom, enters the Iran nuclear deal, where we, the United States, we're going to aid the largest funder of international terrorism, aid them in acquiring nuclear capabilities, and pay them oodles of cash so long as they pinky swore not to make bombs with it. Who could have seen that being a bad idea? Who could have seen Biden ending the sanctions on Iranian oil that Trump put into place and then resuming nuclear talks with the Iranians? Who could have seen that ending badly? And it is going to end badly. You know, while all of us back home are just a little bit distracted with the crises that the Biden administration has caused through and through, right? While we're distracted with that, Israel doesn't have that luxury. Israel doesn't have that luxury, right? The Israel Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett, came out and spoke about that and what Israel's position is on this whole debacle right now. He had some choice words to say the least.
Over the past few years, Iran has made a major leap forward in its nuclear R&D, its production capacity, its enrichment. Iran's nuclear weapon program is at a critical point. All red lines have been crossed, inspections ignored, all wishful thinking proven false. Iran is currently violating the IAEA's safeguard agreements, and it's getting away with it. They harass inspectors and sabotage their investigations, and they're getting away with it. They enrich uranium to the level of 60%, which is only one step short of weapons-grade material, and they're getting away with it. Evidence which clearly proves Iran's intentions for nuclear weapons in secret sites in Turkuzabad, Tehran, and Marivan is ignored. Iran's nuclear program has hit a watershed moment, and so has our tolerance. Words do not stop centrifuges from spinning. There are those in the world who seem to view Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons as an inevitable reality, as a done deal, or they've just become tired of hearing about it. Israel doesn't have that privilege. We cannot tire. We will not tire. Israel will not allow Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon.
No, there may be some who see that as a bluff, right? Maybe a hollow threat. I certainly don't. I mean, if the conflict between Israel and Hamas earlier this year proved anything, it's that Israel is, for starters, strategically and tactically very proficient, very capable, and that they've also proven that they will go the distance that they need to strategically eliminate their enemies by whatever means possible, right? And also minimize the collateral damage as well, because again, they were very, very proficient going after Hamas and ensuring that civilian casualties were kept at a minimum. They went after their enemies hardcore, but they did it minimizing casualties as best they could. In a lot of ways that a lot of other militaries would not have, absolutely. So, but when they make this kind of statement against Iran, yeah, I don't think it's a bluff. I don't think they're going to be holding anything back because they know that they can't. Iran does not want Israel to exist. Israel knows that, and it doesn't have the luxuries that we do of being distracted or burying our heads in the sand about this sort of thing. They do not have that luxury. They know that, and they're saying they're going to go the distance here, and I believe them 100%. But let's not kid ourselves. I mean, when it comes to the U.S., the powers that be right now, the people running things, are, for the most part, anti-Semites or people who just don't like Israel, generally speaking, and don't want it to exist, right? Because when Rashida Tlaib can go out there and say that the Holocaust gives her a calming effect.
And there's a kind of a calming feeling I always tell folks when I think of the Holocaust and the tragedy of the Holocaust and the fact that it was my ancestors, Palestinians, who lost their land and some lost their lives, their livelihood, their human dignity, their existence in many ways have been wiped out on some people's passport. I mean, just all of it was in the name of trying to create a safe haven for Jews.
When AOC can go out there and cry because the U.S. continues to fund Israel's Iron Dome defense system. A defense system, the Iron Dome, a purely defensive tool that shoots rockets out of the skies as they're being fired against you, right? It does not fire rockets back at your enemies. It is a purely defensive tool developed by the U.S. and Israel, which we have been funding for a long time, right? When she gets out there and cries and all the other members of the squad vote against that, these are people who do not want Israel to defend itself. And what reason could you possibly have for that? Even when Hamas, in an unprovoked act of aggression, fires thousands of rockets in highly populated civilian areas of Israel, in an unprovoked act of aggression, right? What possible reason could you have for not wanting Israel to defend itself? It's because you do not want Israel to exist. These people detest Israel. They're anti-Semites through and through, right? You have one of the greatest anti-Semites of all, Ilhan Omar, right? The incestuous United States representative going out there and just laying out all of these ridiculous slurs and heinous accusations against Israel, ethnic genocide and crimes against humanity. Give me a freaking break. So if and when Israel launches an attack against Iran to prevent, even if it's just to prevent them from having nuclear weapons that they would use against Israel and against us, let's not kid ourselves about that either. You don't think that the powers that be would use that as fuel to, I don't know, maybe cut off support entirely to Israel? Hell, maybe even use that as an excuse to aid Iran in putting the pieces back together. Maybe even give them funding, give them aid. Hell, I think that's probably a likely outcome. I think by the end of the year, that's exactly what we're going to see. We're going to see Iran get closer and closer to building a nuclear bomb. We're going to see Israel smack them, bitch slap them silly in response to that. And then we're going to see our government turn on our allies. Israel is an ally. We're going to turn on our allies and start openly supporting Iran. Again, the greatest funder of international terrorism in the freaking world. That's my prediction that we're going to see by the end of the year. And if I'm wrong, please call me out in the comment section. Hold me accountable, absolutely 100%. I honest to God, hope that I'm wrong, right? If Christmas comes and this hasn't happened, that'll be a Christmas miracle as far as I'm concerned. I would like nothing better than to be wrong on this 150%. I really would. Yeah, this is scary stuff. We are in some dark times right now. And given the leadership in our damn country, it's not likely to brighten up anytime soon. But God, all I can say is thank God for Israel at this point, because if it wasn't for them, I mean, like I said, I genuinely believe that they're going to do something. But if they didn't do something, I find it extraordinarily unlikely that we right now, our country as it is, with the leadership that it has and the military leadership that it has, the joke of military leadership that it has, I don't think that we would do anything to prevent that. I genuinely don't see that happening. Not with people like Mark Milley running the damn military. Not with people like brain dead people like Joe Biden running the country. I do not see that. Good God. So, in any event, moving on.